An array of worlds. Scion Harold inhales deeply before entering Observer Wu's office at last. The stabilizing breath of the man had mirrored it exactly. Neither one of them is going to enjoy this. Observer Wu is staring at him over his desk. The chair's gone. The stern man doesn't blink, instead holding out the reports Harold has written. He motions for Harold to take a position in front of him. Then he marches up in front of the desk, adopting the at ease stance with his hands behind his back. Colleague Jameson. Sir, Observer Wu. Consultant, it is evident that we are having communication problems. Although I admire your fervor, diligence, and earnestness in safeguarding the inevitable, it is evident that appropriate guidelines and boundaries must be set. But first, I need to be sure you understand the gravity of the situation. I'll start talking now, and I don't want to stop talking until I'm done. You will undoubtedly be able to defend a lot of things, but I need to know that you comprehend. Is this clear to you? Indeed, sir. Excellent. We're recording this talk so that everyone may view it. To ensure clarity, you are able to respond to this query. Are you Harold Jameson's, also known as Herbert Jameson's twin? Yes, sir. Excellent. I shall now describe Earth's perspective in its entirety for the purpose of clarity and to make sure your own memory downloads are up to par. Harold gives a nod. During the previous 10 years, an alien probe made its way to Earth. It didn't take long for it to start broadcasting on all frequencies, radio, digital, and, to be honest, more than have ever been practically employed at one time, before the whole retrieval could be completed. Together with a message in the language the primer translated, it transmitted blueprints for FTL technology, a star map, and a language primer. Within 16 hours after the probe's collision with the frigid Arctic Ocean between Canada and Russia, this message was practically everywhere. It was too strong to ignore, overwhelming numerous communication hubs worldwide. Harold nods, remembering the early hours following the probe landing when there was of a Third World War. Herbert had fallen asleep because it had crashed during the day, and even though he didn't really believe it at the moment, he still needed sleep. Then, there were plans, primers, and other materials everywhere. Everything had been dominated by it. The alien message had dominated popular conversation, and then something miraculous occurs. With the aid of human infighting, we gather the brightest brains, engineers, and architects to create a masterpiece utilizing the blueprints and materials the probe has supplied, sufficient for 5 megaships. We train guys to be warriors while this is going on, harsher still. More than any other force in the entirety of human history, both fully and profoundly. To elevate mankind beyond the status of simple mortals, every calorie they consume, every second of sleep they take into account, and every action they take is calculated. Harold asks to speak. May I please, sir? He is aware that he will be turned down, but he needs to object to that. Yes, the washouts were Olympians, and the training was unbelievably difficult. However, it fell short of being scientific. Too much time had been spent in the rough and tumble areas of life, in the muck. Too many wounds for that. There were far too many people whose bodies broke before their minds did. It was controlled bullshit. Observer Wu snaps, denied. As I mentioned earlier, we elevated these men, as well as a few women, above the status of simple mortals. For one last great mission, we revived, retrieved, and curry favors with legends who were living and legends who were long dead. We produced more than just warriors and soldiers. We gave them abilities beyond anything anyone had ever had. Even before you ask, denied. Harold starts to say something, but Observer Wu interrupts. Even though Agent Alpha, Agent Omega, Admiral Cistern, Sir Philip, and Madame Stepanova had not experienced the harsh training, they were nevertheless significantly superior to the other members of the Undaunted. How can they be greater than all of the others? Not only were they the most well-known, but they weren't the only ones at that level. With our hopes and dreams, we build this miracle ship, load it with a crew of barely, and send them off. A few months later, we learn that some of the crew has returned aboard a newly constructed fast boat. The ship has defected, we have been betrayed, and the information they bring back is offensive. It's insane. Even worse, it's ill-considered insanity. Not only have we been deceived, but our deception was careless. So we send out another trusted group, using the seized ship to get some kind of answer. They disappear, and when they return, they have been changed. The story of lunacy is the same, and happily we've gotten the next ship, this ship, practically finished. And then we receive an independent communication from beyond. Wealth. Wealth beyond imagining. Wealth that, when translated into almost every language on Earth, is a demand made by an extraterrestrial woman, makes the vast volume of freight, resources, and extraterrestrial artifacts returned by the previous two journeys look insignificant. That's when we began outfitting the inevitable with passenger cabins. Like most official explanations, Harold realizes that much of this is rubbish, so he just modifies his attitude so that the camera spotting him can see the look of pure derision on his face. "May I speak now, sir?" Refuted. It was obvious at this time that an unbiased observer was needed to understand what was happening and separate fact from fiction. I was selected after tens of thousands of agents from every government agency in existence were screened. My entire life has been dedicated to assisting people. I have been through persecution, defamatory remarks about me, shootings, and worse, all in an effort to make the world I leave behind a better place for me to live. Harold remains silent. My life has been shortened by what I have witnessed since leaving cruel space, which the rest of the galaxy refers to as our homeland. What ought to have been humanity's greatest advance has descended into anarchy in every direction imaginable. It has been possible to conquer entire worlds and even to pervert, join, defile, and even create religions, conflicts, crimes of war, not to mention common crimes, and aplenty more. Harold raises an eyebrow as Observer Wu says, "It is safe to say that you and those like you bear the brunt of this." This had turned to the left. "You don't even appear to comprehend how utterly crazy and ludicrous you and your situation are. You have broken laws pertaining to not just nature and physics, but also justice and common sense in just the last few days alone. You have acted in this way heedlessly and as though you are completely unaware of anything strange about you. The last straw is your installation of a vast blanket array of spy devices throughout the inevitable. For the benefit of future generations and in front of everyone on Earth, you will now provide an explanation of yourself." "Excellent, sir. What specific details do you want me to provide? Where did I come from? How did I act? How did the other Undaunted behave? The multiple errors, flagrant fabrications, and misrepresentations of facts in your version of events. From me, what do you want?" "Your actions to begin with. I lack a solid identity, but I am a very strong and capable person. I've only been here for under 8 months. It has hardly been a month since I came into the world. From conception to delivery, a newborn baby has existed longer than I have. I was made specifically to test biological and toxic weapons on humans. These tests are over, and my creators have given me all rights and obligations. I've received a mental download from Harold Jameson, the guy from whom I am cloned. The method by which this was accomplished led me to acquire some knowledge from multiple members of the semi-official Nerd Squad, a section of the Undaunted devoted to taking axiom research in new areas. Novel, in what sense? Time control, the development of incredibly potent weapons that heavily rely on axiom. They've been attempting to develop a look or approach exclusive to the Undaunted, but the best we could accomplish. They have developed a number of quick cuts that make it much simpler to learn and master a number of really tricky and demanding styles. This raises the worry of men gaining unexpected divine power, men who have already demonstrated their treachery. So we're disregarding the several mutually exclusive commands that each and every member of the Undaunted received, all of which were suggested to be treasonous if they weren't obeyed. Your little speech regarding the building of the Dauntless and the crew's training was extremely well done. It would make a nice addition to a history book, but it misses the very real truths about it, like the fact that a week-long lecture explaining why we should never ever look at Earth again could not have told those soldiers to never return back, Harold adds, pausing to catch his breath. And the power of God? I'm on tape confronting a deity. A real god. I was a toddler with playboxing gloves, lightly tapping the world heavyweight champion's ankle, compared to her. At most, I was a source of humor, recalls Harold. She still approves of you, in the same way that the heavyweight champion would tell the toddler to hold his fists, raised in between blows, and give a nod of appreciation when the youngster complies. A valid point. Even though you had tremendous artillery, brute force, and savagery to destroy entire nations, you were treated like a kid. No, I didn't. Near Earth, none of the tools, methods, or strategies I used would be practical. I would only be a highly well-trained and fit man if I were to set foot on the human homeworld. Even though I wouldn't be supersonic or bulletproof, I could still defeat any two skilled troops in a straight fight if I was at my peak. The third would probably mean the end for me, not to mention the possibility of sniper fire or basic explosives. You say simple things. However, the point is made. Which brings us to our last significant problem, which is your propensity to seek for permission rather than ask for forgiveness. It is illegal to bug a military warship, and doing so has typically resulted in a very harsh verdict. And it is also a crime, both officially and against common sense, Observer Wu, to fail to appropriately secure a powerful military asset. Observer Wu says, the vessel is secure, and Harold reaches up to his left ear to remove a tiny gadget. And that's the case? A tool for reporting. Not a thing more. Communicators have a feature that allows them to record and replay sound in real time, functioning similarly to a voice amplifier. I'll have my earpiece resting on the receiver. Please set yours to that setting. You can hear what I hear in this way. Observer Wu takes out his communicator silently, and with minimal help from Harold, he locates the function and puts the tiny earphone on the receiver. A little period of quietness occurs between them. The device sounds, lower 84392. Harold explains, abnormality 5 decks below us and towards the front of the ship. What is it? I'm not sure. Harold responds, I know only that there is an abnormality. He then carefully turns and faces the appropriate way. With a flurry of movements, Observer Wu activates his console and starts looking through items. A leaky hot water line. The maintenance is already en route, observes Wu. Harold says, that would explain things. Then, he takes a breath and begins to explain. Mister, the vessel is not impervious to penetration by axiom. Even while your routine operations go well, and without a great deal of planning and support, your ship would be practically unbreakable. It is unable to keep up with the rapid advancement of axiom-based technologies and methods. Because galactic-scale cloud computing provides that in and of itself constitutes a disastrous security issue. Add teleportation, the capacity to phase through solid matter, and the knowledge that for certain species, the natural state of affairs is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to near-perfect disguise and invisibility. To be honest, an adept in probability can effortlessly input a password with a keyboard tap, not to mention the countless variations of distinct axiom methods. Though it's not quite mind-reading, it is possible to direct a dream that feels so genuine that it can't be separated from reality and basically get someone to confess. Anything at all. And these tactics can affect us easily? You do. They have all of your vulnerabilities. You must utilize axiom to counter the axiom unless you're ready to regularly strike this spacecraft with null, which is prohibited in many regions of the galaxy. Can only magic defeat magic? Or something like. Harold argues that it would be more appropriate to state that you may either directly refute axiom with your own axiom, or you can counter it with ludicrous, obscure, and really well thought out strategies and approaches. I understand. Are there any more questions, sir? It is evident that you have left the sensor array you built on the ship in place. Not yet, but I will take it down after this meeting if your orders to take it down are not changed. I understand. Number U will leave it up to intelligence in its entirety, but you will cede control of it. Additionally, you will let the security detail, the captain, and the command crew know about this. Sir, I require a more than just a standard consulting role on the ship. I need to know for sure that any notice, message, or alarm I send out will be read and not lost in the day-to-day minutia, unless you want me to have a more or less direct pipeline to you or the captain in my endeavors to defend the ship. You do, indeed. After talking with my administrators, they acknowledged that they had just arbitrarily prioritized their worries over yours. But you are one of the individuals being looked into. Possessing official power is a serious security and procedural violation. You have an answer for this in your tone. I do, says Observer Wu. My helpers are putting up a backup messaging system. It will take precedence over my regular communications. It will be for consultants, crew members on temporary assignment, and other similar uses. You can be confident that your problems will be taken care of going forward. Consultant Jameson, are you prepared to take orders now? Mr. Indeed, sir. You must continue supporting our security and intelligence divisions, be totally transparent about them at all times, and publicly disclose all choices and actions to them. Post them on a board. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you make sure everyone is aware of what you're doing. Secondly, recruit more agents to protect the ship from dangers posed by axiom. They won't hold any official positions of power, but I can set up appropriate compensation and salary. Just make sure the pay is fair. Yes, sir. Indeed. Is it all right to talk? Appreciated. Hiring will not be a problem. From their point of view, the galaxy functions on a completely different schedule. Even if your mission here takes years, it's just a side project to safeguard the inevitable that ends with them getting to brag about. Not locating our possible candidates, but sorting them out will be the more difficult task. All right then, proceed, consultant. Yes, sir. Observer Wu says, dismissed, and is greeted with a salute. Good. There is no tension between them, for the time being.